When I first launched Like a Dragon Ishin, I was slightly hoping this game would suck so that I could have a contrast to show you guys what a bad game looks like, since so far I've only reviewed games I've at least decently enjoyed, and I can't lie, there was definitely something strange about rooting for a new game to be bad, but I've played horrible games in the past, and yet none of the recent ones have actually been worth reviewing. So after playing this new Yakuza game, I can at least say that my prayers have been answered. This game is an acid trip. You think you're enjoying it while you play it because at surface level it has entertaining qualities, but think about it for 2 seconds afterwards and you realize it was definitely not worth your time. The minigames, which to be fair, do compose a large part of this game, are also the most redeeming part, and you think about it for just a little bit and you realize you could just be playing these weird games online or real life with real people, which then in turn will allow for much better interactions than whatever nonsense you're gonna get from this game. The biggest room in the elephant is the combat. This game was basically marketed as Yakuza but with a large focus on the fights, and yet it still feels like the games I've played from the early 2000s had sometimes better mechanics. Most of the fights I've had in this game were so difficult and unpleasant that I often ended up just cycling around the enemies and getting enough tickle damage to kill them. Keep in mind, this is on normal difficulty. There are 2 harder difficulties than this. Another huge problem with the fights is how there are 4 different styles, and yet only 2 of them are actually usable. In Swordsman, you just run around or block the enemy's attacks until you eventually get a wide enough opening to get 1 hit in, and then wait another 10 minutes to get your second one. Meanwhile, in Wild Dancer, you just use Anji Mito's dodge from Guilty Gear Strive infinite times in a row, and then spam E to use an AoE attack that requires 0 skill to land. There is really no room for any talent or creativity. Here is me using the fabled Brawler style. See, notice how I do about 4 to 5 damage a hit, yep. And keep in mind, enemies at the point I'm at in this game have well over 1,000 hit points and deal over 100 damage a hit. They also didn't implement a lock-on function, which makes me more depressed every time I think about it. But fighting is just one thing this game massacres. The side quests, which many consider to be the carrying factor of the previous games, have been downgraded to a couple lines of dialogue, a loading screen, and grinding. See, this old lady quest, where she is apparently lost, is just a fade to black cut of you bringing her home. No random BS, no fun fights because apparently that doesn't exist in this game, not even any real satisfaction from completing it. This game also introduces a game-breaking mechanic known as a personal relations bar that increases every time you interact with someone. But I've never gotten one to be full because it costs $1,000 to increase it by this much. Now, let's get to the story. This game starts with an opening animation of some war that your character, who is a professional sword fighter, is coming back from. All dramatic, very cinematic, I enjoyed it greatly. However, that is approximately 0.5% of the time I've spent playing this game. The actual story is a redemption story of some mysterious person killing your father, so you must betray your own brother to find the culprit. It might sound really fun when I say it like that, but keep in mind I just summarized 20 hours worth of content right there. That's like if you had to watch 10 hours worth of cutscenes for 5 minutes worth of gameplay, which would be really foolish and stupid, and no game would ever do that, right? Remember when I said that the fights made me want to delete all video games from my hard drive? Well, I'm gonna build off that point by mentioning that you encounter these fights randomly every 10 steps you take. And each time, it hits you with an animation like the enemies you are killing actually have any importance to you. Actually, let me correct myself. You aren't killing anyone because violence is against your character's morals, which is perfectly understandable. I wouldn't want to hurt anyone who could have affiliations with the death of my father either. Instead, let me go sing in this karaoke bar to pass the time.
Baka Mitai